Hey, what's going on, guys?
Okay, welcome.
What's going
Welcome to Is It
on?
Crazy or Is It God? We got our new God is Dope shirts.
Shout out to God is dope, man.
Shout out to God is Dope for always having a sale.
Always.
I love that good sale.
And it promotes God.
I gotta love it.
I like it.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a new question this week before you get started, and then I'm gonna go do our sound check while you answer it. Okay. You ready? Get scared. No, you don't be scared. I want to ask you, what was the question? I wanted to ask you what you learned this week.
Okay.
Like not necessarily like applied. You can answer however you want, but
okay.
Like not necessarily like applied knowledge or like applied word, but like what did you learn that from putting something into practice? Right? Like it doesn't even have to be necessarily from the Bible, but like what did you learn this week? I'll just leave it like that, and you just answer how you want.
Okay.
Okay, think about it while I go through the sound check. I'll be right back.
What did I learn this week, guys? Okay. Maybe a couple things I learned this week. The first is how I learned the mornings matter. I've learned that if I take care of my body in the morning, it takes care of me. It gives me dopamine and it pushes me through the day. I feel mentally prepared. The second thing I learned this week was accountability matters. So what that means is when you identify something that is an issue with you, you feel bad about it, you brush it off your shoulders, right? Don't dwell on it because that's the past. The past brings up emotions. Then you correct the issue, and then going forward, you solve it. I learned that when you start taking accountability and solving your own problems, it feels really good. Because you're the one that identified it and not somebody else. Do you ever get to the point when
that's wild?
Somebody will call you out and you know you're wrong, and they'll call you out and you're like, oh, and then you get mad at them.
Well, right? It's the defense issue. Defense mechanism, sometimes it hurts. It's like,
you're right. But then when you identify the problem within yourself, and then you correct it, when that person calls you out, you're gonna be like, oh, I already know. Because you're not going to be in defense mode or feel bad. You're going to have a conversation about it because you've already identified the problem yourself and fixed it.
Or maybe nobody might ever call you out, but you grew anyway, right?
But you grew anyway, right?
Yeah, so that's what's up. Oh, wow, that was a good answer.
Yeah, that's what I learned this week.
Mornings matter and accountability and growth feels good when you do it yourself. That's good. I like that. I'm going to answer the same question.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out where I want to go, like where I want to apply this. So, like, I mean, we learned a lot. This is not all we learned this week. But these are just kind of like the standout. So for me, I learned some things about the Bible this week, and I learned more about, not to say that I know all there is to know, but I learned more about believing in myself and having faith in God, right? So I think it was last week, it might have been a week before, where we kind of touched on, I say I trust God, but then I worry a lot. So is that really trusting God, right? And that's something I'm probably going to struggle with, but hopefully it'll become less and less of a struggle.
Yeah.
Because this week I learned how to, set up a system so that you're addressing a thing and then let the rest go. because you can't really the other stuff like the worry, the anxiety, the stress, the waking up and thinking about it and going over here and thinking about it here, it's not really doing anything. So it's like I don't really want to have a bad day because I'm worried about something. And it could be just the smallest thing, or it could be like a really big thing that you can't change. But for you to sit and think about it over and over and over and over, you're not really doing anything. But if you have a level of, let's say, okay, here's an applied plan, or here's what I'm going to do in response to this thing that's happening. Once you really can't do much more beyond that. Either thinking about it and stuff like that doesn't really help. So I say what I learned was more about how to trust God with it. And I found some scriptures that were helpful because I started meditating about it. And to meditate means to become familiar with.
Yeah.
Guess who I learned that from?
Joe Dispenza.
But we always hear about meditating on the word. And that's one of the reasons I try to do the memory verses, because I'm never going to remember everything in the Bible. I'm not even ever going to hold myself accountable to remember the verse exactly the way that it's stated. First of all, there's several different versions of it. But if you get the gist of it, then you'll remember it. And becoming familiar with it is like going over it and over it. A lot of times people don't like repetition, especially this day and age when our attention spans are so short. But I love repetition because it really makes me know it. So that's what I learned this week, like learning how to trust God. And it felt good too, because it's just like, okay, this isn't my burden to carry. Like, now I don't have to go over here and worry about it. Like, I'm going to do the best that I can with the information that I have. I'm going to learn more about things. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do, I'm going to take action where I can. But then after that, why even concern myself? Right. And so part of that too is this is funny. I'm going to make a post about this on my Yes I'm Unicorn channel. One of the reasons I realized that I didn't believe in myself in certain ways, or I didn't like trust myself, is because, I didn't trust myself because I haven't been consistent in certain ways. So it's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then you don't believe it because you haven't done it before. But that's not a reason to say, oh, it can't be done. It's just that you have to find a system for yourself to say, I can show up and do this, right? Yeah. I'm going to hold myself accountable in this way. And for me, I like to track things. And it's not even like I'll track my progress necessarily. I'll just track my attendance, right? Like I'm going to show up and do this. And if I have a track record of it for myself, then I'll gain more trust in myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll learn over time to believe in myself more, because I can do hard things. Like, and I've done it so many times, like so many different things I didn't think I would be able to do or get through or accomplish. And I did them when I wasn't focused on the goal. I was focused on the practice. So that's one of the questions I want to ask from now on is like, what did you learn this week? Like, what did you put into practice?
I kind of like that better than how was your week, because it's kind of like a more in-depth.
Yeah.
How was your week? Because when you say what you learned, that's a really good question, because then it makes you reflect on your week. And it's not about being good or bad. It's about what are you taking away from it.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't check in with ourselves like that. Yeah. Like individually, we don't say that. What did you learn? Because then, after a couple of weeks, you'll just kind of forget about it. But if you kind of like solidify it and say, okay, here's what I'm taking into this, right? That's good. So good. I'm glad you like that. So,
before we get into the reading, I did want to say, you've inspired me.
Oh.
So you witnessed this too. So I'm gonna start taking about 30 minutes in the morning. I'm gonna read a proverb, because listen, reading a proverb a day keeps the devil away. I don't know if that's a saying.
I don't think that's true, but I guess it'll keep him back.
A little bit, right? Well, so like you got proverbs, you got like it's 31 proverbs. Most of them are 35 voices, 35 verses, and then I started reading this. So right now, in the morning,
is that you say it out loud?
This is the promises from God for every man. Yeah. And I already read the first chapter. So every day I'm going to read one chapter, read a proverb, and then write down my thoughts about how I feel and just connect with God. Just giving God more time. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's what I'm going to start doing every morning with other things.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that a little bit later when I give my shout out because that's funny.
All right, guys. So now the reading.
All right, guys. It got spicy this week. It's real. It gets so real. I mean, we're reading a lot of Psalms in this part. And
I think it's David mostly wrote them.
We've been in the Psalms for a good month or so. And I like them. Yeah. I mean, I like them, but it's not like the story necessarily that the stories that we've been reading before.
It's probably going to be because I think David wrote a lot of them.
Yeah, and we're following David's story in 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles. Yeah, because it's kind of like goes to get like the same story. Together. Yeah, but some things are left out of some parts, and then when you read the other one, right? If you read 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles, it
gets filled in.
You get more details. It's like hearing one person's side of the story and then going over to another person who witnessed it, and it's like, what did you see? Okay, what did you see? And I don't even really know who wrote these. I guess Samuel. Samuel wrote Samuel. I don't know, guys. I'm no expert. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get started.
So we have 2 Samuel. We read 2 Samuel 10. 1 Chronicles 19 and Psalm 20. This is when this describes what David. It kind of starts like David defeats the Amorites. So this is another, I guess, people he conquered.
Yeah,
that's what that was mostly about. That's really the short of it. He just he conquered another. He conquered the Amorites. So, like this part of David's life, like it's a lot of war going on, and it's just detailing. I want to say, territories. What type of territories she's conquering?
Yeah,
and. So that's just what it's about. Here's the question. You ready?
Did you say what happened?
I mean, just David defeated the Amorites.
Those three. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
David defeats the Amorites. Because it was something else that stuck out to me. We're gonna get into that, I guess. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was that. Remember, that was the only thing is when we read that it was basically the Syrians and the Armenians that he took over.
But this is about Hanan, and his friends. But like, what about your friends? That's what we should call it. But anyway, let's get into it. So 2 Samuel 10.
Yeah.
1 Chronicles 19 and Psalm 20. What is the question? Or should I say what I think first?
Say what you think. Oh, you're talking about the beginning of 10.
Yeah, the beginning of 10 when David took over. Okay, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanan, which they pronounce a different way, or it looks a different way. No, that was not him. Okay, that was that was somebody else. Okay, so his son Hanan of Nahash.
That was Shobath.
Yeah. So David said he wanted to show kindness to the king's son because his father was kind to David.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, somebody that looked out for you passes away and then you think, oh, let me just go check in on their family because, I rock with his dad. Like he took care of me. Mm-hmm. Now, when he sent word, right, like, hey, I just wanted to console you, I wanted to, check in with you, whatever, and show you some kindness. His friends or the princes of the Ammonites basically said, do you think that David is honoring your father because he sent comforters to you? Has he not sent his servants in order to search the city and spy it out to overthrow it? So from there, Hanun took the servants that came with the message that David was going to be nice to him, and he shaved off half their beards and cut off their robes, like right beneath their midsections. And so they were basically like, embarrassed. I guess it was a thing, right? Like he shaved half of their beards and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So when the Ammonites saw that, so then they sent them back, and then basically David sent those guys, the servants who have been embarrassed, who their beards have been cut, to a different place, and they stayed there until their beards grew back. But then now you have beef. Like David was trying to do something nice for Hanun, right? And Hanun's boys, or whoever he was hanging out with, basically made it hateful. They're like, why do you think he's doing that? He's not being nice. He's trying to spy on us and do this and that. But it's like, that's not even the case. So sometimes, you gotta, sure, have some discernment, but you gotta really listen to your own instincts. I think that was the lesson that I learned, because it's just like sometimes people around you can make things out to be something that it's not, and you just kind of like gotta go with your own thoughts and instincts. That's what I thought.
Yeah, keep people. Sometimes you gotta watch out who you listen to, because sometimes the closer people are, like David's chilling. He's like, listen, man, oh man, you know who I am. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm King David. You're cool. Let's have peace.
You was about to say that thing about the basketball player.
Yeah. Well, the first person to say it was God.
Okay.
So Moses, I am.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. You know who I am, Moses. I don't have to explain nothing. Like I'm God. Mm-hmm. To be honest, he's the only being that say that him and Jesus for real, to humble all of us. Like Jesus could come to you and say, you know who I am.
Yeah. You know what it is.
You know what it is, right?
Yeah.
So like King David was like, hey, I'm chilling. Like to me, if David offers you peace, you want to really accept that, because at this point he's been conquering a lot of places. And since we've known David, listen, he's a musician, right?
He's a warrior.
He's a poet.
Mm-hmm.
But don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
He is a fierce warrior.
Yeah, he is.
Don't get it. Do not mix it up.
And I feel like a lot of his, victories, if not all of them, if you really want to go there, have been based on his relationship with God.
I believe
like he seeks God through everything. When he's in pain, when he's afraid, when he's in anguish, when he's happy.
He wins wars,
You know what I'm saying?
So why would you go get something?
So I don't understand at that particular point why he would have thought that, oh yeah, he must be sinning.
Because David is such an honorable man. If he offers you peace, you accept it. Which means that if he offers you peace, he's not going to go back on his word and attack you. That's how. To me, that's how honorable
at that
David
particular
is.
point, I would have thought that too. So I'll just put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
oh my God!
Listen, things change. But
he's an honorable man.
He is. I'm not taking anything away. David is a good guy. He taught me a lot about how to pray.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to mess with him on that.
But he's human.
Okay. So let's go to the question.
Oh, paranoid is a good word to describe King Hanun.
Is this what we're about to talk about right now?
How can you keep away? No, how can you keep from being paranoid today?
Ooh, they get right into it.
Paranoid.
Read that. Let me see that. Paranoid is a good word to describe King Hanun. Okay. How can we keep from being paranoid today? I have some ideas. Do you want me to answer first?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second.
I think being paranoid. You look for your phone?
Yeah, I want to look up the definition of paranoid.
Yeah.
No, I like doing it.
I know you do. So something about people from this area, they like to just look down. All right, let me see. Man, I just got that.
That
was all based on my other show. So here's the deal. What could you do to keep from being paranoid today? I mean, it's the same thing he could have done back then, which is ask God. I think it's so crazy how we just wait to do that last. I'm including myself, obviously. Like, out of all the things you could do before when you have an issue,
suspicious,
suspicious, right? Out of all the things that you could do to like address an issue or a problem or try to figure out what's happening, right? Like, you could Google, you could do all these things, you could talk about it with your friends and your family, you could, go and spy on people, you could do all these things, but it's like we do all of these things first, it seems, and then we go to God like, well, I've done everything else, let me just ask God. It's like, if you just start there, you know what I'm saying, giving it to God, sometimes that, I mean, not even sometimes, I feel like that's the best thing you could do to keep from being paranoid. I mean, you're always going to have, I guess, a sense of angst when it comes to, did I do the right thing, or is this for me, or am I walking into something, or I get like that about some things.
Yeah.
But all you can do is just pray and use the best judgment that you have. You can always seek out more information, but the information you need might not even necessarily be privy to you. So, my answer in short would be pray. Yeah. Ask God, give it to God, and be like, reveal to me what you want me to do.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
It's
how could you keep from being paranoid today? How can we keep?
Suspicious and mistrust. I believe that number one, you do need to, ask God, but go from my man, like mistrust and not trusting somebody, I think, is something that happened to you in your past and you're holding on to it. Because why would you just mistrust a random person? Like mistrusting, somebody who extends their hand in good favor is an issue that you have to deal with. It's not David's fault. It's not the person that you're mistrusting. It's you. And I'm not talking about all situations. I'm just specifically talking about this one. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about if David did something to him in the past, how could he trust him? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if somebody you've heard through the grapevine is a good guy and favorable, right? This person that you word on the street, he's a good guy, and then you still mistrust him. That has to do with, that's an internal battle that you need to figure out. And the only way you need to figure that out is with God.
Yeah.
That you got to sit down with God and pray about it. If he would have prayed on this and God would have been like, David's a good guy, trust him. God's not going to steer you wrong. He's going to tell you like, I
go this way. Right? Or something's going to happen for you to see, like, sometimes we have to learn, sometimes we have to learn, not necessarily for ourselves, but sometimes you'll be in a situation that you have to learn from. But it's never a bad idea to seek God. And it's like, it's so hard to remember that sometimes though, because you feel like, what happens right now is real and I got to figure this out. And I mean, how quickly we forget. I'm the number one offender of that.
I all the time.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know even if that would, I'm learning more about it. It's funny because I just kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'm learning more about how to trust God.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily like quell all paranoia.
No.
Sometimes I will run up on a Bible verse or a story, like if I'm looking for something specifically, and it'll completely address it, and I'll be like, "Bet
there it is.
I got this." Right?
When you're searching for God, He's going to give you the answers.
Yeah.
If you are struggling in life, go to God. He's going to give you very clear, precise instructions. Now it's up to you to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes they be so uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
What?
I
don't want to do that.
I told you to do this.
Right.
I'm giving you specific.
Now listen, God. Listen.
And it's like, man, I don't know. This is very uncomfortable.
But it is best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you know when you know when it's from God.
You know.
So anyway, all right. That was a good question. All right, so on to the next part.
Various Psalms. So it's Psalms 65, 66, 67, 69, and 70.
Yeah.
And here goes the question. So these were songs of thanksgiving, God, just praising to God. I believe all of them were, except for I think 70 was the psalm about suffering.
So
no. 69 was the psalm about a situation where a faithful Israelite is suffering for his wrongs that he's done. So that's 60, the verse 69. And and then 70 is just
prayer for help.
So the question is, which psalm strikes you most deeply and why?
You know, when they ask questions like this, it's wild because they started doing this in the Teach Sunday School. What is it called? TeachSundaySchool.com. That's the Bible plan that we're reading. 365-day Bible plan. When they start asking questions like this, it's crazy because you gotta think all the way back through all what you read and don't necessarily remember what you read. You know what I'm saying? So, but since they started doing this, I started marking my pages with these note cards. So I always go back and look to see what I have highlighted. So it says, which one stuck me the most? Is that what that struck me the most?
I already know my answer.
I think mine is gonna be.
Don't take it easy.
Not even the one that I have the most like affinity to, but the one that struck me hardest. Was probably either 69 or 70.
Oh man, 69 is deep.
Here's why. Those two in particular, I guess I gotta pick one. 70 was really short. It was like,
70 was a
few lines. Okay, here's the thing that strikes me. Let me get my little note card out. The details. Okay, this kind of goes back into what we were just talking about. The details that are being prayed. So this is David. He is giving details of his distress. Like he is telling God like how thirsty he is, like how, oh my God, this is happening and I feel so much like this and my enemies are like this. He's describing all of these things. And at first it kind of struck me a little bit. If he was talking to anybody else besides God, he would be complaining. But you're talking to God, so it's no longer complaining because God already knows. You're discussing with him. You ever be talking to like, oh, my mom used to do this to me all the time. Talking to your parent and you're like, this happened and then that happened and then this happened. And it's like, it's not like they know what happened, but they're like, And you're thinking like, what do they know that I don't know? Well, they know a lot because they probably been through something like this. And they probably have told you something about dealing with situations like this. Right. And so it's like when you find yourself saying out loud, like what's happening, sometimes it's like you already know what to do. Or you already know. So I'm imagining that as he was bringing his sort of like distress to God, he's describing it in detail. And God is probably, obviously God is already aware. But in that moment, you're really understanding that like God's going to take care of it anyway. That's why I'm even talking to him. So that was one thing that stuck out to me. And then another thing that was weird, I guess it was in 70. Well, so he also is calling God very urgently. We all know God is on his own, it's not even on our time, right? God is on his own thing. So he'll come when it's best for it. So, I thought that was really interesting how he's like, oh God, come quickly to save me. Yep. Oh Lord, come quickly to help me. He repeated himself a lot too. And so that's Psalm 70. But he also was talking, he was trying to bring sort of like, I don't know, sort of harm or something to his to his persecutors. I thought that was interesting because I don't think I've ever done that. It's like I don't remember pray to God like kill them, God, like or not. I don't even think he ever said that. It's just like let your fierceness burn over them, and may no one dwell in their tents. Like I'm in 69, 25.
But
right now.
This is a different time. This is when like war is going. Well, war is still going on. So
yeah. And he's also making promises to God. So that's true. Because when you're in war, I guess you are saying, like, listen, it's either me or them. So let it be. You know what I'm saying?
I was about to say this is a different time, but it's a war going on right now.
It is a war going on. It's like, So that's interesting. But, I thought that was wild that he was wishing for the detriment of his adversaries. But at the same time, you're right. They're at war. Yeah. And then... yeah, so that was interesting. Just those two things. The fact that he was so detailed and the fact that he was like so urgent with it and how he was trying to bring down his enemies. But okay, what struck you the most and why?
66. So this just breaks down how awesome God's deeds are. And like the first it says 1 through 3 says, shout out to the joy of God, all the earth. Sing the glory in his name. Give him glorious praise. And say to God, how awesome are your deeds. So it's just like praising God. And this sticks out to me the most because that's what I'm lacking. I tend to pray to God when I'm going through something. Now, in my morning routine, I pray to him more about what I'm going through versus
praising him
for waking me up. Praising him for this space we have. Praising him for you. Praising him for my family. It's always, what about me? Selfish nature of humans. But that's what it kind of like stuck out to me. And then also, verse 10, it says, for you, O God, you have tested us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net. You've laid a crushing burden on our backs. Let you men ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water. Yet you've brought us out to a place of abundance. Everything that we've went through, you've tested us. And because we believe in you and you're the higher power, you've brought us through all these things and all these obstacles we've gone through in life, and then you show us abundance at the end. So that I think that's huge. I think we tend to forget that when we're going through the crushing or the suffering, and then once we get out of it, we're like, I'm good. I did that all on my own, It's all me.
Wow. And it's like, thank me.
Yeah, I want to thank me. But it's not, and then God still loves us. And then when we go through it again, he brings us back out. So I think that this just, I need to do more of this. I need to praise him more for the good things. That's what I give it to David, man. He prays whether it's good or bad, whether it's raining or sunny.
That's true. It's another thing that says in that verse, his eyes keep watching the nations. Okay. Sorry, I'm down in 66:8. Bless our God, O peoples, and make the sound of his praise be heard abroad, which is like unapologetic praise.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I sort of like you're supposed to pray in quiet, but it's not like, praise, right? Yeah. It's a little different because it's like, I think sometimes you kind of shy away, especially if you feel like, oh, these people aren't believers, I'm not going to bring this up, or, oh, this isn't professional to bring this here, or, oh, people might be, offended if I bring up Jesus. And now it's like, it's not like that I don't care about people's feelings, but, we're exposed to a lot of things. We were exposed to COVID. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be exposed to Jesus if you're around me. If you don't want to be, then don't be around me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm taking that on.
Yeah.
I'm saying this like it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
This is not something that, this is something that I'm understanding now.
Yeah. Unapologetic
praise. Okay, one other thing, just because we're here.
T-shirt.
Okay, there it goes. Write it down. Okay, so here's what I thought was funny too, or interesting, standout. Mm-hmm. It was in 65. Was it 65? The dawn and the sunset. Yes, it's 65:8. So they who dwell at the ends of the earth stand in awe of your signs. Okay, so that's not the beginning of the sentence, but this is what it's saying. Mm-hmm. 65:8. So they who dwell in the ends of the earth stand in awe of your signs, the evidence of your presence. You make the dawn and the sunset shout for joy. Oh, and this whole verse, Psalm 65, kind of went through some of just the the wonders of the earth, and it talks about, I think this is when it talked about like the water and how the water can be fierce and it can be calm, and it's so many wondrous things. And whenever you see a sunset or a sunrise, you can't help but to be in awe of it, because it's so amazing. It's like we're all witnessing this at the same time, and it's so beautiful. You can't deny it. I've never heard of anybody like that sunset. Like it's my eyes.
The sunrise is vicious. I think the first time I saw the sunrise when we were on the beach.
Wow.
Because you gotta get up really early.
Yeah, that's true. And you can't always see it over like the buildings and stuff in the city.
We were right on the beach, and I was like, what? Time to go inside.
That's so amazing. Yeah. But anyway, things like that. And then you think about your little tiny little problems.
Yep.
And it's like God makes the sunrise and set. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you think that your problem is so big that it can't be, dealt with? But anyway, okay. There's that. I thought that was cool. So moving right along to the next portion.
Now we're getting to.
This
is very interesting. This is probably the last question, and should be.
2 Samuel 11 through 12 and 1 Chronicles 20, which is pretty much like
20 is
it's a truncated version.
Yeah, 20 is kind of what happens at the end of.
It's like
12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 2 Samuel 11 and 12 really got detailed about what was happening.
Yeah. Because it gets real.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that David is as great as he is. This is when, listen, as a person who grew up in the church and reads the Bible, everybody knows this is about David, what I'm about to say and what I'm about to read. But he is still one of the greatest people, I think, to praise God and all the things that he accomplished. But he's still at fault. He's still here.
Yeah, every human is flawed.
So now. David and Bathsheba. And David takes a plunder. That's another thing he did this time too that was interesting. And then Goliath get his relatives killed. That's kind of in Chronicles 20 at the end of it. It just basically says about Goliath. I think that's at the end of 12 and 20. Yeah, that's the 1 Chronicles 20 where it talks about Goliath's relatives. Mm-hmm. But David and Bathsheba. David was in his castle, sitting on a couch.
You just made that up.
No, he was.
He was sitting on a couch?
Yeah, it says it.
Where?
David and Bathsheba, 11 verse 2. It happened late one afternoon when David rose
from his couch. It was a real couch.
Yeah, he was chilling on the couch.
That's interesting.
He was in his house.
I thought you was just ad-libbing.
No.
I was like, he got the remote in his hand. He looking on Instagram.
No, man. He got up off the couch. I was thinking about what it looked like back then. It's probably like wooden.
I mean, what if it was amazing, like tapestry and stuff they don't make anymore?
It probably was like.
Anyway,
was bomb. Probably like had like ox hide on it. It's probably like luxurious. Because you gotta think back then, the way they were building, the way they were building stuff.
Yeah,
you could probably sleep on it. That joint probably was huge too. Yeah, all right. So then he rose from the couch. He looked out the window and he saw a beautiful woman named Bathsheba that caught his eye. And he said, like, who's that? And he called her up and he took her and they had sex. And then she, purified herself from uncleanness. And she went home and was like, I'm pregnant. Now, here's the thing. I know some people are going to be like, oh, man, how could, listen, the king calls you into his chambers back then. You're probably not going to turn him down. I don't know how that's, possible, but he shouldn't have. She was a married woman, minding her business, and he has sex with her. Now, this is the part that gets messy. And I'm going to let you explain what happens next.
First of all, he is the king.
He's the king.
So, not to say that, that it kind of makes it more wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because he
has more power.
Yeah, he just kind of like
bring her up here.
Uses power.
Yeah.
And whoever brought her to him said, isn't that so-and-so's wife?
Yeah.
And he still did it anyway.
He still did
it. So anyway,
anyway.
Now here's what happened. They laid together. She said she was pregnant. She was pregnant. He went to go find her husband, who is Uriah.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said to Uriah, why don't you go home?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And lay down and do whatever he told him. And Uriah did not go. It's not like he didn't go for that. He didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
They basically were, I guess, just coming back from war or something. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing here, but he went with the other soldiers. Like, they're
supposed to. Yeah,
he was like, oh, no, I can't go back home and relax when, we got stuff going on here. Like, we got the tent, we got, the ark, we got a bunch of stuff going on. Like, I'm going to stay in my quarters.
Yep.
So he didn't go back home. And I'm assuming here that he wanted him to go back home so that he could lay with his own wife. Yes. And it could be thought that was his baby.
Yep.
But
he did. He specifically said
he did not do that. So that is not what happened. So then David started scheming. There's no other way to put it. He basically got a lot shady. He sent him to war and put him in the front.
Wait. Remember, he got him drunk.
Oh.
He got Uriah drunk, but Uriah
he still didn't go back
home.
Didn't
go back home.
So he tried a couple of times to scheme and do these things. Then he sent him off to war, put him on the front line of the war and then it was a place that they knew about because earlier in one of the other books it explained how a lady threw something because you could see when people were coming up. So basically they put him right in the line of fire. Yeah. And then, he basically sent the man off to die. So then he went and got his wife, Bathsheba, and then they had their baby. And the baby was sick. And, David fasted and everything, but basically the baby died. Now, they later had another child, Solomon, which we haven't gotten into that yet. But
the Lord loved him.
The Lord loved Solomon, but the other baby died, and it was some interesting like back and forth about how, why he fasted.
Oh, the God told him that.
He fasted and prayed.
God told him the child was going to die.
Yeah, but he fasted and prayed before the baby died, and then the servants were scared to even tell him. Mm-hmm. Because they were scared he was going to hurt himself or he going to hurt them. And then he heard them whispering, and that's when he realized, like, oh, that the baby must have died. And then he ate, and they thought that was weird because they were like, wait a minute, how is it that you're able to eat after the baby's dead? And he's like, basically, like, there's nothing he could do about it. Mm-hmm. But I think it was because okay, it's done, right? Like God told me and I knew it was going to happen. Now, but here's the thing that kind of is weird to me is that he's so good at praying. Yeah. And I don't know this for sure, but it just seems a little strange. Like, I didn't see any prayers about this in particular. Maybe we haven't gotten there yet.
I think we're going to get there, babe.
But he was scheming, and that was not the work of the Lord. Yeah. So it was like, I think we're going to get there. But we're going to get there. It's like, man, you were doing so good. But look, we're all flawed.
All flawed,
and David has put a lot into, showing people how to pray and how to have faith in God.
He prays a lot.
So, I mean, he's not, listen, you can't cancel David.
Nah.
And I just want to say that because we like to cancel people when they make mistakes. And
he might have birthed one of the greatest people, but that's
I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah. Okay, don't ruin this through. But what I'm saying is, in this day and age, we would have wanted a statement. Yep. Cancel his Twitter, cancel everything. You know what I'm saying? Let him wear the hat of shame. And I don't know what happens after this, so maybe they didn't try to cancel him.
Which is crazy because the only person that can cancel you is God anyway. Yeah,
but I mean, my point is that, looking back on all of the things, like this is what would happen present day is what I'm advancing because it's out of all the stuff that he did before that and everybody how they was talking about him and Saul, David killed 10,000 men, and it's like they would forget all of that this day and age and be like, he needs to pay.
And remember when Goliath was talking bad about God, he was like, you ain't gonna talk about my God like that.
Mm-hmm. He would have been, we need we need a public apology. Yep. We need a personal apology. We need to donate money. You get canceled. We're not buying nothing that says David. We're not listening to this. Like, whatever. That's what we would do. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's not what the question is, I bet.
All right.
And then I even talk about the Nathan thing. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So Nathan, God sends a prophet named Nathan. Right? This is 2 Samuel 12. Nathan tells David a story, and this is from 12, 1 to 12, 7. This is what I'm going to read it. And the Lord sent Nathan to David. He came to him and said, there were 2 men in a certain city, one rich, one poor. The rich man had many flocks and many herds, but the poor man had nothing but a little baby lamb, in which he ate his morsel, drank from his cup, lied in his arms. Oh, no, he said, I'm sorry. He had one little lamb. He brought it up, and it grew up with him and his children. It used to eat his morsels, like his drink from his cup, lie in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Mm-hmm. Now there came a traveler to a rich man, somebody visiting, and unwilling to take none of his own flock or herd, the rich man, to prepare for the guests that had come to him, he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it to the man that came to him. David was angry when he heard the story and was like, and he said to Nathan, as the Lord lives, the man who has done this deserves to die. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold because he did this thing and because he has no pity. And Nathan said to David, you're the rich man.
You are the man.
You're the man.
I'm reading now.
You're the man.
You're the man I'm talking about in the story, David.
You came into somebody's house, took his wife. Mm. You have all these wives. Mm. Oh, all these children.
That makes it even worse.
You're the king of Israel. This man fights for you. He's struggling. He's a good guy. He's God-fearing because I feel like if David fears God, everybody else is. Because if you're not a believer in God, David's probably going to kill you. Is that a good assumption?
Yeah, I have another thing to say once you're done.
So it's kind of it's rough, man. It's like, golly, and then he says, "Thus the Lord, the God of Israel, I anointed you king of Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Saul. And I gave you your master's house and your master's wives in your arms, and gave you the house of Israel and Judah."
And you do this.
When you do this, man.
You know,
And then I'm going to ask a question.
Okay, it's so funny because when they say what's done in dark will come to light, I thought it was also interesting in this particular verse. This is 2 Samuel 12. I think it's in 12:12. Indeed, you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel. So basically, thus says the Lord, behold, I will stir up evil against you from your own household. This is 2 Samuel 12:11.
Yep.
I will stir up evil against you from your own household, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your companion, and he will lie with your wives in broad daylight. Indeed, you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel in broad daylight. Here's the thing about that, right? Like he did. So when David did this and he laid with the man's wife, he did it secretly. Not only did he do it secretly, because so the story that Nathan tells, it says, this is you. It actually was worse than that, because not only did you sleep with the man's wife, you could have took her, right, and said, this is my wife now. This is my cornbread, right? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
But he went a step further and first tried to hide it and then went to the lengths of getting him killed. But I think he, perhaps it's because he wanted to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want it to be like everybody's, front page news.
Yeah.
That like King David took my wife. Yeah. Right? He would have rather it been
because that word would have traveled very fast.
So that's what it's, and the fact that God is will punish him this way. He already took the child.
Yep.
Now it's like, you did this thing secretly, but I'm going to show everyone when this happens to you. It's going to be in front of everybody in broad daylight. So, that's scary. But at the same time, God still has mercy on David, because he says later on, like, even though this will happen to you, you won't die. Like, God still got his hand on the man. He's not canceled. But he's going to have to suffer some consequences.
Oh yeah, he's going to feel this.
And I mean,
he's going to feel this. He's going to feel this. This is bad. It is. There's no way you can slice it to say, oh, I understand where David's coming from. No, he's totally, utterly wrong.
Yeah. All right, so there's that. Okay, so what's the question?
David is still winning, but starts to get careless. What can we learn and apply to winning stages of our lives? What can we learn and apply to the winning stages of our
lives? We could learn, and this is again with a grain of salt, because we're all human, and it's not like I'm judging him or anything like that, but we could learn to not be greedy. To just be, we could learn from what he usually did, which is praise God when it's good. And so to be careful, because I think that's when the enemy is going to try to tempt you. You know what I'm saying? When you're celebrating and everything's going good. I mean, you're really going to be tempted at all times. There's that out there. But I think,
it's going to be harder to hide, especially if you're doing it and praising God.
It's easy to take advantage because it's like you have everything, you have all the power. So you don't even have to really go through too much to just get it your way. And, that's why God has all these principles and precepts for us to follow, because, it's only right that you do it God's way. Now, I'm saying all of this is not like, I'm perfect. I'm reading the story, so it's clear what the answer is, but, it's tough. It's tough. Like I always say, when you get famous, whenever you get notoriety for whenever, your work that you are doing, it's going to be hard for the rest of us because he's not going to say anything about, being humble. Hopefully we'll all learn from this.
You can only be humble in the eyes of the Lord.
Okay, I'm just messing with you. Give me a hard time. Okay, what say you?
I think you're right. I think it's when you get to a pinnacle, the top, it's hard because not only you have to keep up, it's hard, especially if you have a really close relationship with God and you're winning. It gets difficult.
Yeah.
Because the devil's going to, you talk about the devil's going to come at you. It's going to come at you even harder because look at Job.
Yeah.
Look at this. He's gonna come at you hard. And then sometimes it might not even been the devil, right?
Sometimes
he could have just it's just you. He could have just been like, man, I'm David.
I do what I want.
I do what I want. And it's like you forgot everything that God has taught you and everything that you've been through. You know, how much God has given you. You gotta watch out because God can take it away real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's what I think.
So yeah, that's what we read this week. Yep. Next week we're gonna be reading Psalms 32, 51, 86, 122. We're gonna be reading 2 Samuel 13 through 18.
Yep.
And then more Psalms. Yep. 3 through 4, 12 through 13, 28, 55, 26, 40, 58, 61, 62, 64. Look, we're going to get these all
are probably, these Psalms are probably going to be how David is going to start. I think they're going to start. He's going to, knowing David, these Psalms are going to be about how the sin he committed and how much he is repenting.
Well, so you know more of the story than me, so you're probably right. As usual, we are striving to inspire a community of Bible readers. Even if you do not consider yourself a Bible reader, you can be one. Yeah. Look at us. We don't have any credentials other than, we just decided we wanted to read the Bible and we're believers. And you don't even have to be starting as a believer, to be honest. You could just start reading because it's so weird to me. It's not weird. It's funny to me because I listen to we both do listen to brain scientists and stuff on podcasts, neuroscientists and other types of scientists too. And they outline and highlight all the evidence of, experiments that are being run. And it's funny to me when they come up with a result of an experiment and it's exactly what we've read in the Bible. Oh yeah, you believe it's already yours. And things like, now you can tell me how the power of the mind is going on a frequency. And it's like, or you could have just read the Bible and found that out. Yep. There's a lot of stuff that happens like that I think is interesting.
A lot of self-help books, a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. A lot of self-help books pull stuff from the Bible.
Yeah. Reap what you sow. That's in the Bible.
So, I mean, it's an interesting way. Even if you do not consider yourself a believer, I would encourage you to just know what's in there because what else is, that powerful? So I just feel like you should at least know what's in there. People are always going to be talking about it. You might as well just know what's in there. So we want to encourage people to do that. Yep. I do want to give you a chance to tell your shout outs, or if you want me to go first, I can.
My shout out is, I'm going to shout out God is dope, man.
Yeah.
Do that again. I love their brand. I like the way they design their clothes.
I like the sales.
The sales, the way it fits. And shouting out God.
Yeah. That's the best part about it.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it when I go to the grocery store and people are like, oh yeah, I remember next time we order, I'm gonna get some more Jesus shirts. But when I would wear a shirt that just had Jesus period, and that's the thing that is real when you blatantly are like, I'm a believer. Or you wear a Jesus shirt. I kind of love it. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I kind of think of it like almost like a sign. Yeah. Like sometimes, like when I'm wearing one of these, or when I'm,
I think Toussaint was the first person I actually see.
Yeah, probably. Shout out to Toussaint if you're watching or listening. It's one of our wonderful friends from church. What I was gonna say is that, sometimes people will be like, oh, God, give me a sign, whatever, right? And I like to think that by wearing this shirt or wearing something like we're going to probably come out with at some point, that could be somebody's sign.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if they look over and see like Jesus, period.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah. Or maybe that'll be one of our designs. This is your sign from God.
Yeah.
Like, who knows?
Who knows, man?
But my thought is like, I like to support the brand. I think it's a very simple and, straight to the point And it's a dope brand. God is dope. You're absolutely right. So
okay, more shout out to Fourth Quarter. It's a show that I have with my friends where we basically go from a fan's perspective. We break down sports. We go live every Wednesday around 7:15. So this time in sports is very interesting. March Madness is coming up, guys. I know everybody likes to do that. Faith participates in it. It's going to be college basketball on TVs for 3 weeks straight. I'm about to start watching a lot, and the NBA playoffs are going to start. So she's just going to have It's just going to be a lot of basketball on, and then NFL draft, and then so it's just a good time for sports right now. So I love it, and it's called Fourth Quarter, and that's it.
Yeah. My shout out this week, obviously got to shout out those two sisters. We're actually on Miss Demita Jones' channel for currently, but we're probably going to change the location and we're branching out with those two sisters brands. So just watch out for the changes that we're about to make. I think they're very exciting. As I always like to say, that is not rated PG. Do not bring your children over to that corner of the internet. We are two sisters just telling it the way we see it, and it's a fun conversation though. So if you are an adult and you would like to hear more about that, we just talk about culture, whatever's happening in the news and the media, and we like to break down our favorite things that we watch on TV. Another shout out. Yeah, we definitely talk about mindset and getting through your week. Just understanding, more about our human experience. It's really just two sisters having a conversation. These are the conversations that we would typically have with each other just on camera. So that's why I say don't bring your kids, because sometimes it gets a little, So anyway, here's the other shout out that I'm going to give this week. We've mentioned before that sometimes we'll listen to, actually most of the time we listen to during our sleep, motivational sort of videos, things like that, affirmations and stuff. There is a particular channel that I like called Abide, and I believe they have an app. This is not sponsored or anything like that, but I just want to give a shout out because there are some nights that I get the best sleep, and I think it's those nights, because sometimes we don't have it playing, it'll just be nothing. And actually I got a really good idea the other day, but I couldn't remember, I couldn't decipher whether it was an idea from God or an idea from somewhere else. So I wrote it, I did write it down.
Nice. That's the one where it talks about God, it's nice.
It's basically, it goes over Bible verses, and then it also has this element of meditation where it'll be guided. It'll be relax your shoulders, clench your this, roll your ankles. I did that the other day. I was listening to it, and it actually did relax me. And then
help me sleep.
And then it's always some soothing voice. They have men's voices, women's voices, and they talk about actual scriptures, and they'll just go over it over and over again. And I'm like, why not listen to this? It's very relaxing, and a lot of times they'll have the soothing music in the background, or maybe some waterfalls. It's really nice. So that's my shout out this week, is to Abide and to those two sisters. So
all right, guys.
Listen, guys, we're so excited. As usual, as we like to say, do not take our word for it. Go to the source, read your Bible. All right, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.